Well, greetings everyone and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Marissa Smith and I'm the Director of Student and Recent Alumni Engagement here at the Alumni Association, and we're just so pleased that you've chosen to join us today for Passion, Purpose, and Authenticity. What the heck am I supposed to do with my life? Presented by Jessi Beyer, who's a proud 2019 grad from the University of Minnesota. And before I turn it over to Jessi, I have just a couple of announcements for you. First of all, we want to give a shout out, as we do at every webinar, to all of our UMAA members. Our members power everything that we do. And so I want to thank you if you're tuning in as a member for helping support us. And if you enjoy the webinar series and you're interested in learning more about how our members help us out and what exclusive benefits they get in addition to being members, that you can find out on our website at umnalumni.org. And because you're interested in today's webinar, I have just a couple other announcements of things you might be interested in coming up. Next week in St. Paul, Minnesota, so if you're in the Twin Cities, you might be interested in an event we're hosting called Make It Work with the Coven. The Coven is a co-working and community space for women, trans, and non-binary folks. And it's founded by 3 University of Minnesota alumni. And so they're going to be coming and hosting a panel event at alumni-owned Urban Growler to talk about their experience founding the Coven, what they learned, and how their U of M education contributed to their experience so far. So that's going to be a super fun event. Definitely encourage you to check that out. And then next, some of you may be familiar with our Maroon and Gold Network. That's our free online platform for networking and mentorship. And we just hit 5,000 users on the Maroon and Gold Network. So we're celebrating that. You can see our cake there celebrating 5,000 users. So it's really neat to see the community being built on that platform. If you're already on it, thank you. If you're interested in learning more what it's all about, I included the website there for you. Alumni can sign up to give back as mentors to students, and they can also seek out other alumni mentors on the platform to help them continue the momentum that they're building in their own careers. There's alumni across all industries, tons of locations. We're currently in 46 states in 45 countries, so it's just really cool to see alumni supporting other alumni on the Maroon and Gold Network. And then finally, wanted to give a preview that February 2020 is Career Month, our second annual Career Month, where we'll be doing a highly concentrated series of workshops and webinars and events for students and alumni. And so we'll continue to roll out the topics that will be included in Career Month soon, but wanted you to have a heads up that that is coming. All right, so next, you all have likely tuned into today's webinar using your computer systems, audio and video. Wanted to let you know that you do have the option to listen over the phone as well by dialing the number displayed on your screen and then entering the webinar ID there as well. Jessi in a moment will invite you, tell you about her plan to answer your questions during the webinar, but wanted to let you know that there is a button if you use the webinar panel of control buttons, that there's a Q&A button there and that you can enter at any time, and we'll be monitoring those as we go. And then finally, I would like to introduce Jessi and turn it over to her. Jessi is a speaker, professional development coach, and mental health advocate who specializes in helping her audience break through expectations, discover their passions and purpose, and live authentic and fulfilling lives. So I couldn't be more thrilled to welcome Jessi, a grad of the University of Minnesota here, who's going to lead us in an engaging discussion. And so I'm going to stop sharing my screen, which will allow her to share her screen.
Awesome. Hello, everyone. I am so excited to be here. Let me get my screen shared so you can see my presentation. There we go. Share that. Let's get here. All right. Give me just a second to get this thing up, and then we will get going. Oh, wait. What's happening? There we go. Slideshow. Come on, computer. There we go. Perfect. All right, everyone, like Marissa said, my name is Jessi, and I graduated from the University of Minnesota this spring, so I'm a recent and very proud alumni. I'm so excited to be here today to talk to you guys about passion, purpose, and authenticity and what y'all are supposed to be doing with your lives. That can be something that's really confusing, especially as recent graduates when you get out into the world and there's so much. You know, there's so many opportunities, there's so many paths you can go down. How do you figure out which one is right for you, and how do you make sure that you're staying focused on that path? That's what we're going to cover today. Now, a few housekeeping things, like Marissa said, as far as questions and answers, there are chat options and Q&A options within Zoom. You're more than welcome to put anything in there during the presentation, but just know that I'm going to have a dedicated, probably 10 to 15 minutes at the end to go through all of those questions, answer anything that you guys have, clear up any confusion that there is. So if you can just save that to the end, that would be really great, as I'm not going to be monitoring the chat super closely during the presentation. I only have so many eyeballs, and if I try to put them in too many places, it's not going to end well for any of us. A few other housekeeping things. First of all, I'm not your teacher. I'm not your professor. I'm not your mom. I'm not going to tell you that you guys have to pay attention to this. You are all old enough to figure out what is beneficial for you and not. But my suggestion is that you guys close down any other browser tabs, put your phone on silent, get rid of any and all distractions so that you can really dedicate this next hour-ish to you. The more you put into this, the more you're going to get out of it. And I want you guys to get absolutely everything you possibly can out of this training. The second housekeeping tip is that y'all need to have something to take notes with. I would love it if it was a physical journal. I feel like that's always more impactful for me as I'm working through personal and professional development. But if you guys would rather do that on your phones or computers, some way to take notes. That being said, if maybe you're on the bus or something like that and you don't have an option to take notes, this is being recorded and it will be sent out to you guys after the presentation. So don't panic. It's going to be a lot of information coming at you guys. I want to make this super, super valuable. So if you can't get it all, feel free to go back and watch the recording. That being said, let's jump into it. There are three things that you guys need to know about me before we really dive into this information. The first is that I cannot throw. If it's a softball or a baseball or a stick for my dog, I cannot throw it. I have literally tried to throw a toy into the living room and it has ended up in the kitchen sink. I can't throw. Thing number two is that I cannot use scissors. I don't know whether it's being left-handed or whether my hand is just malformed or something. I don't really know what's going on with that, but I cannot use scissors. Thing number three is that I also cannot make mac and cheese. My mom makes the best homemade mac and cheese in the world, and whenever I try to do it, even when she's watching me do it, I somehow mess it up. So we're not going to talk about mac and cheese or throwing or using scissors or anything about that today. What we're going to talk about is you. Who doesn't like to be talked about for an hour? Who doesn't like to focus on themselves for an hour? So we're going to talk about you. First things first, though, we're going to play a game. And how this game is going to work is I'm going to put up a question on the next slide asking for the definition of a word, okay? And I want you guys in the chat box to share what you think that word means, okay? So that is going to be something, oh, why did my slide just go away? Resume slideshow. There we go. I will be very upfront and tell you guys that these are kind of trick questions. So if you don't know the answer, don't worry about it. I will explain what we're doing in a second. So question on the next slide, asking for the definition of a word, type it in the chat box. Are we good? Good. Okay, here's the first question. What does success mean? Okay, what is the definition of success? Go ahead and type that in the chat box. I want to hear what you guys have to say. Let's see what people have to say. Can you guys find? There we go. Happiness, comfort, achievement, being happy, achieving the highest levels. Oh my God, they're going too quickly. Personal satisfaction, happiness, satisfaction with your life, financial independence, content, respect, being satisfied, peace. Okay, these are all awesome. And also I love you guys for typing as quickly as you do because I can't keep up and it's amazing. So feeling proud of what you do, fulfillment, moving forward, goals and values are aligned. That's great. That's really, really great definitions, okay? Here's the next word. What does fulfillment mean? Now, I know some of you said that success means fulfillment, so if you want to just flop that around, that's fine, but I'd love to hear what you guys think. Okay, leaving the world better than you found it, enjoying what you do to make a living, living in the place you love with the people you love, doing meaningful and rewarding work, finding purpose, a deeper connection to the world, a rich life, making a difference, enjoyment, feeling happy with who you are, positively impacting the lives of others, reaching a desired outcome. Great, 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 great. Last question that I have for you guys. What does happiness mean? What is the definition of happiness? Being part of something greater than yourself, satisfaction, love, being content with what you have, living in the moment, love, 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 owning your story. Oh, I love that, Allison. Finding joy, being lighthearted. Happiness is a mood, not a state. Dawn, you are on top of it. Connection, acceptance of yourself, peace and hope, feeling content with what you have, loving yourself to love others, contentment and sharing, that sense of being where you belong, acceptance of presence. Great, guys, these are fantastic definitions. I love it. So here's the thing. We live in a society where we're often told to build a successful, fulfilling, and happy life, but no one ever tells us that we're supposed to define those words for ourselves. No one gives us permission to see what those words mean in our own lives without taking the societal definition. So what was great about that chat and reading some of those answers is that all of you guys have a different definition of success. And that's exactly what I want you guys to see out of this, a different definition of fulfillment and happiness and all of those different things. So here's the deal. We frequently use should in order to keep ourselves held captive to those expectations. So maybe when you first started out in college, you said, oh, I should be a biomedical engineering major because that's going to make me more money and therefore I can be successful. Or, well, my parents say that I should go do this career, so that's the one that I'm going to do. What you're doing by that is you're actually really disrespecting yourself. Because when you're saying that the beliefs of others, that what they want you to do is more important than what you want to do, and that they know you better than you know yourself, that is so limiting and so disrespectful. And I mean that with the utmost respect to you, because I want you guys to break free from that. I want you to move out of that and find something really, really powerful for you. So we're going to cut out should, right? But why? Some of the reasons that we say should is because we don't know what we actually want sometimes. Sometimes we want to keep others happy and make them proud of us. I know when I started out in my college journey, even merging back into high school, one of the top priorities to me was making my parents happy. I wanted to do what they wanted. I wanted to do something that they deemed successful. And therefore, I completely pushed aside everything that I wanted to do, that I thought was important. So their happiness and their opinion of me and my life was more important than my own happiness and my own opinion of my life. Another reason that we constantly use should is because we think other people know best. Sometimes when we're young, and I know we're all graduates at this point, but just looking back to college, and even sometimes if you're a young graduate now, there's this stereotype in society that you're young and you're partying and you don't know what you want to do with your life, but I am an old adult and therefore I have all this experience and know exactly what you should do with your life. If you felt anything like that in your life, drop a yes in the chat box. I just want to see how many people have felt like other people, older people, think that everyone knows best because they've had so much more life experience. Yes, says Allison. Yes, millennials, says Adam. I hope you mean that millennials get that a lot, not that millennials don't know what they're doing, because we do sometimes. Just saying. Oh yeah, we've got a lot of yeses coming through here. So that's a really common feeling. That's really unfortunate because you are smart. From the movie The Help, you is smart, you is kind, you is important, or maybe I mixed the order on that, but that is so true, okay? You know yourself better than anyone else. And so we're going to take away all these excuses for using the word should, and we're going to put in some really powerful tactics that help you guys know what you want, why you want it, and how to move forward with it. So when we say these things, when we believe these things about ourselves, that other people know best, that we don't know what we're doing with our lives, that we need to keep other people happy, this can sometimes come out in things like, I'm not sure what I want to do, but mom says I should do this, so I'm just going to do it, right? It could be, I've been working at this job for 30 years. It's way too late to change careers now. It could also be, I'm too young to do that. No one's going to take me seriously. This is something that I definitely struggled with when I started my business because I was in college, right? I was a young entrepreneur and thinking that I was trying to make my mark in this world of people who had 30, 40 years of experience on me, that was really intimidating. It took a lot of work for me to understand that I bring value because of the experiences that I've been through, not because of the amount of years that I've been breathing. So if you're young or you're old or you're somewhere perfectly in the middle, don't let age limit you in what you think you can and cannot do. Everyone is just as capable as everyone else. Everyone has their own set of experiences to build from, and that's where we're going to move through today. So again, these are some things that you can hear yourself saying or maybe hear in others that are close to you if they're feeling really stifled by the beliefs and expectations of others. And last one for you, I don't want to make him mad, so I'll just do what he wants to do, right? That's really toxic in a relationship, but that's also something that comes up a lot. So here's the deal. We are going to stop all of that. Big red X. We are going to break down those expectations. We are going to show you as an individual how powerful you are and how well you actually know yourself and what you want out of life, even if maybe you don't think that you do. we're going to take back your life, okay? We are going to take back the life that society and the expectations of society have hijacked from you through a process called writing your own dictionary. And it's time for the word associations game. Now, this word associations game is something that we kind of did a little bit with the first 3 questions that I asked about what success, fulfillment, and happiness mean. But it's a really, really powerful exercise that I've used a lot in my own life to really gain direction. See, this is built on the concept that society and maybe family members and pressures from maybe professors or whoever else is influential in your life, that there is one set of ways to do things. So for example, my dad is a fantastic human being. I love him to death, but I am going to use him as an example here because he thinks that being successful means working a 6-figure corporate job. That's what he thinks success means. I was actually having a conversation with him literally 2 days ago. And I was telling him about a book launch that I have coming up and some PR work that I'm doing and how I have the back-end marketing processes set up and all of these really in-depth things that I have set up for this book launch. And he turned around and told me about a friend of his who's similar to my age, who works for Nike and who makes 6 figures. And his exact words are, that's the way to live the life you want to live. That's the way to pursue your passions. And I just paused and took a step back and recognized in my own head that no, that's not the way to live out my passions. Maybe that's the way to live out his passions, but not mine. And that was really an important distinction for me because everyone is allowed and encouraged to have their own definition of what success, fulfillment, peace, happiness, any word you want to put in there looks like to you. But you can't force that on other people, right? And so many times when we're interacting with people, we get the question of, oh, how's the job search? What are you doing for a living? And you say something that isn't exactly traditional. Maybe you're an entrepreneur. Maybe you're working as an intern. Maybe you're a stay-at-home mom. Maybe you're doing something that isn't the 9-to-5 corporate job. And they're like, oh, when are you going to get a real job? Right? I've gotten that so many times. But here's the deal. There are so many ways to be successful. There are so many ways to find fulfillment and happiness. And there is not just one clear-cut path. You owe it to yourself to find I just got a chat from Marty. At least you didn't say to your father, okay, boomer. Yeah, honestly, Marty, he probably wouldn't even know what that term meant. So I love the joke. Don't think he would have gotten it. But, working through this, you owe it to yourself to find your own path. And that's what the word associations game is going to help you do. So how this is going to work is this is an internal exercise. So you guys don't have to put this in the chat. This isn't something you need to share with anyone else. This is some really serious self-reflection, and I want to respect your privacy with that. So if you have that physical note paper, this is the time to get it out. This is going to be something we're writing down and thinking about and stuff like that. So how this works is I'm going to put a word up on the next slide. And I want you guys to write the very first thing that comes to mind when you hear that word. I don't want you to hear success and think, oh my goodness, there's only one way. I have to do the corporate job. And that's what my father says is success. Stop. Sorry, my dog just barked. Quiet child. I don't want you to think that that's the only way you have to do things. So if, for example, the word is success, and the first thing that comes to mind is you holding your child at home and spending time with your child, then that's what you need to write down. That's what comes first to mind. Don't let yourself push that image out of your mind and say, oh, but success actually means this. No, we're not doing that. We are doing what it means to you. And so that first thought, that flash of an image that comes up, that's what you need to write down. One person that I was working with as a private client on this exercise, I can't remember what the word was, but the thing that first came to his mind was apple, like an apple that you eat. And he wrote down apple, okay? I don't want you guys to analyze what this means just yet. That's going to be the next step. Just get it out of your head, that first image that comes to mind, and get it down on paper, okay? Does that make sense? Yes, no, maybe so. Let's see what the chat says. I feel like I'm waiting on this tension thing when the chat comes through because there's a little bit of a delay. Yes, 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 perfect, good, awesome. So you have your paper out, you're ready to go. Here's the first word. Remember, first thing that comes to mind. Confidence. I'm going to give you a second to write down what comes to mind. You can draw if you'd rather draw, but I am very artistically challenged, so I'm not drawing. All right. All right, have you guys gotten some ideas down? Now, Judy, you put through the chat chest puffing, and that brought up a really good point that I didn't mention. So sometimes words that people think are good, positive adjectives, may not be things you want in your life. For example, when I was doing this exercise, one of the words that I had in my list of words was fame. And when I thought of fame, my gut reaction was very negative. That's not something that I want in my life. So if one of these words resonates negatively with you, that's fine. Write it down. Not everyone needs to be famous, right? So just side note there. Awesome. And like I said, guys, if you don't want to put this through the chat, you don't have to. This can be a private exercise. So next word I have for you is freedom. What does freedom mean to you? What are the first things that you think of when you think of freedom? First images, first smells, first sounds, sights, whatever flashes in front of your mind. What does freedom mean to you? Not the 9 to 5. Michelle, I hear you, babe. Awesome. Making your own choices on a daily basis. I love that, Elizabeth. Okay. And the last word I have for you guys right now is peace. What does peace mean? How would you describe peace in your own life? What does a peaceful scene look like to you? Tranquility. That's a beautiful word, Judy. I love that. Oh, a canoe on a lake. Girl, you are speaking my language. I love this. Good, 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 good. Balance, contentment. Great, 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 great. Perfect. So here are some other word ideas that you can use. And this is an exercise that I think when I last did this, it took me 20 or 25 words, right? So I had all of these adjectives swirling in my mind of what I wanted my life to look like. And these are some of them that were on my list. And I worked through all of them one by one by one. So yes, we did kind of 3 in the beginning, and we definitely did 3 just now, but you don't have to stop there. If there are other adjectives that you want, maybe you're constantly saying, I want to find love, or I want to go on adventures, and these somewhat abstract adjectives for your life, it can be a really, really powerful idea to sit down with them and really work through them to see what they are. So here are some other ideas for you guys. Happiness, we already talked about in the beginning. Health, wealth, family, home, love, safety, comfort, wellness, strength, flexibility, professionalism, inspiration, success, confidence, we talked about that, adventure, peace, and freedom, we talked about, experiences, intelligence, passion, rest, purpose, dream, power, fame, influence, fulfillment. There are so many adjectives in the dictionary, that you can apply to your life and yourself. But here's the thing. If you say you want to do something, or you want to be something, or your life should look like this thing, you need to define that. It's not good enough to say, I want to experience all of the experiences, or I want to exhibit professionalism in every aspect of my life. Great. That's really, really great. But what does that mean? You can't take action on this abstract definition of something, which is why this word associations game is so good at getting that abstract concept out of your mind and onto paper. So the best way to do this is to make it a concentrated time for self-reflection. This should not be something that you're doing in the 5 minutes you have in between making your kids dinner and time for their homework. This should be something that you set aside time to do. Remember what I said at the beginning of this training, the more time you put into this and the more effort you put into this, the more you're going to get out of it, right? If you want to put 5 minutes into this, you're going to get 5 minutes worth of return. If you want to put an hour, 2 hours, 2 days into this, you are going to get so much more, and it's going to be so much deeper than just those 5 minutes of exercise. So when I do this, I really like to do this in not quite a meditative state, but definitely a calm state. And what that means for me is I turn off the lights, I put on a candle, I open a bottle of essential oils. I don't put it on me, but I just leave it open and, aromatherapy smell and stuff like that. Like I said, I turn off the lights. I might turn on some nature sounds, like some birds chirping, or you can find YouTube videos with the audio of, like a stream bubbling. Or I might do a quick little meditation, visualization exercise before this, and then I'm ready to do this. Because here's the thing, I don't want to approach this exercise, and I don't want you guys to approach this exercise from a place of wearing the stress of the day, right? So you come home from work and your shoulders are up to your neck and you're stressed and you're tired and you're worried about your sick kid and your boss yelled at you today and do you really have to go on a run tonight? You don't want to, but you kind of think you should, and it's just all up here. And if you try to approach your dream life, which is what you're crafting right now, if you try to approach your dream life from that state, it's like wearing tinted sunglasses or wearing the wrong prescription of glasses and trying to read something. Everything is going to be warped by the weight of those stresses. So taking this time to self-reflect and to step back and say, whew, okay, I'm going to put that down. I'm going to put the weight of the day down so that I can do this exercise in the best way possible. You're going to get more out of it. Like I said, write down everything on a piece of paper, take note of the first things that come to mind. But the way that I like to do this in a way that really, I guess, achieves that first thing that comes to mind instead of giving you time to think about it is I write down every word on the back of a note card. So just, normal, I don't even know what size they are, 4x6 note cards, is that big? I don't know. Write down every word on one note card, flip it over and shuffle them, okay? And then one by one, flip that over and write it down what first comes to mind. Because if you're working off this list here, this list right here, you might be working on family and writing down what comes to mind with family, but your peripheral vision is over here looking at intelligence. Then your mind starts thinking about intelligence. What does it mean to be intelligent? What does dad say it means to be intelligent? Oh my gosh, I think I could grade in college. Do you remember that test that I failed? Was that junior year or senior year? And then your mind is just gone, right? You are all the way over here with intelligence when you should be focusing on family. And then when you do get to intelligence, that's warped by what you were thinking about and having those doubts and conscious processes happening. We want to tap into the subconscious here. So, all right, Adam has a question here. I'm just going to answer this really quickly because we're on the topic. If my word associations were mostly not type phrases, like not tied to a 9 to 5, do you have tips for how to reframe the thoughts into specific positive ideas? Yes, absolutely. That's a great question. So Adam, two things I like about this. First is that you just wrote what came to mind, and what came to mind was not this. Sometimes knowing what we don't want is just as powerful as knowing what we do want. Sometimes it's process of elimination, right? That's totally valid. So A, good job there. As far as flipping that into a positive idea, yes. So now that you have these ideas, you can start to work through them. So for example, not tied to a 9 to 5, you could change that. Ask yourself, okay, what does that look like? If I had to put it in my planner, or if I had to write a shopping list for this, what would it look like? So that could be working the hours that I want to, only opening my laptop when I want to, having the freedom to go to my kid's soccer game instead of being stuck in a meeting, right? So take that, go one step deeper and say, great, I know what I don't want, okay? So what is the opposite of a 9 to 5? How does that look? Like I said, if I had to write a grocery list for this, what would that list look like? And then pull some of those positives from there. Adam, does that answer your question? Yes, beautiful, perfect, thank you. Okay, so like I said, back to how to do this with the pieces of paper because you get stuck on the other words that you're thinking of. Write it on the back of a note card, flip it over, shuffle it, and then do one at a time. This can be a very in-depth exercise. This can be something you spend a lot of time on. So if you need to spread this out over a week, which I think is what I did the first time I did it, that's totally fine. Maybe take 15 minutes before you go to bed, get yourself into that reflective state, and then do it one at a time. So 3 or 4 today, 3 or 4 tomorrow, 3 or 4 the next day until you get through everything that you want to get through. It's unrealistic to ask a busy person who maybe does have a 9 to 5 or a 9 to 9, or they have multiple kids or whoever, whatever your life is, it can be really unrealistic of me to ask you, right, go set aside 8 hours and do this exercise. You're like, bro, no, I'm not doing that. I never have enough time for that. So I want to make this something you can easily fit into your life. And the way to do that is sometimes to break it up. Now, like I said, this process will help you understand what you want instead of what others want for you, and help you see how you may be living according to the expectations of others. Now, how does it do this? Let's pick the word family, okay? You do this exercise, you write down what you think for family, and then as you look back at it, you're like, that looks nothing like what I thought family looked like. That looks nothing like what I was told family looks like. So especially being a young woman, I get asked quite a bit, well, this guy you're dating, is he husband material? Do you want kids someday? how's that white picket fence house coming along? There's this really great guy at my cousin's wedding that you just have to meet. He's so good with kids, right? I get this all the time. And I'm sure as I get older, I'm going to get more of it, which is not the way that I want to go. But what that is that's putting those expectations on me that family looks like 2 kids, a white picket fence house, and, the football quarterback guy, right? But that's not what family looks like to me. To me, family looks like the 2 fur kids that I have downstairs, one of which you heard barking earlier, which is really great. But it looks like a dog and a cat, and having that peace and serenity and choosing who I want in my life, whether they be blood or friends or professional people, whatever that is. That's what family looks like to me. And so when I did this exercise for the first time, I saw that my definition of family was very, very different than the standard societal definition. And that really showed me how much pressure I was putting on myself to conform to that. Because even though I kind of had an idea of, yes, I want a cat and a dog, and maybe I want to get married, but I definitely don't want kids, I don't really know. Even though I had that idea, that base idea, I still had in the back of my mind, my mom really wants kids. I should probably have kids, right? Right? And white picket house in a neighborhood, kids grow up in a neighborhood, right? That's normal. And I was having these doubts in my mind about what family looked like. So this is a very clear way to push that all aside and to work through this in a way that shows you maybe how you've been living according to the expectations of others and really how to break through that. So once you've moved through all of the words that you want for your life, and guys, that list that I showed you earlier, you can add some, you can subtract some, you can do whatever you want with that list. That was just an idea to get you guys started on some words that you can use if you feel like those are something you want in your life. So once you've gone through all of those things, now and only now is it time to reflect on what you've written. So go back through all of your note cards, all of the things that you've written down, all of the words that you've described that you want your life to look like, and start finding some golden threads. There will be themes that come up again and again and again, and just pull those out. Make note of those. Sometimes these themes are more adjectives. Sometimes they are physical things, and sometimes they are activities. So when I did my exercise, the concept of saving lives, physical human lives, was something that came up time and time again. So I pulled that out and I put that on the side. You'll start to find these things as you work through them. Maybe family and home and peace and experiences and love all have very similar definitions in terms of having a kid, okay? So pull out that concept of having a kid and set it on the side to work through later. These golden threads are gonna be really, really important because we're gonna build buckets, right? I love buckets. Buckets are so much fun. And I know y'all don't know what I'm talking about with buckets, but I'm gonna explain this because your 5 buckets are the 5 most important things in your life. As a human with 24 hours in a day, 7 days a week, there are only so many things that you can dedicate your whole self and whole time to. Now I know my math isn't totally perfect because 100 times 5 is 500 and we are not 500% of a person, but if you put 20,000 things on your plate and you say, I'm gonna be the perfect mom and the perfect wife and have the perfect house and the perfect job and the perfect body and the perfect this and this and this and this, and you have goals all over the place, it is gonna be so very difficult for you to achieve any of them because you're spreading yourself way too thin. You may think that it's better to give a little bit to this person and a little bit to this person, a little bit over here and a bit and bit and bit and bit, but what you're actually doing is damaging those activities and those relationships. Let's say you have 10 friends that all really, really, really need something from you at once. And you're like, okay, I'm going to give 5 minutes here and 5 minutes there and 5 minutes there. And it's going to be perfect, right? I can get it all done in under an hour. But when you're with that first friend, your second friend's going to be calling and texting you. So you're going to be ignoring that first friend to text the second friend. And then you're going to be running late to see the third friend because the second friend ran over time. And you can see how quickly this can get out of control. I'm not saying that you should categorize your friends. That's not what I'm saying with this. But that example just shows how if you have too many things in your life, you can get out of control and you're not going to be able to give all of yourself to all of those things without getting completely overwhelmed and burnt out. So there's about 5 things that you can dedicate yourself to. That's it, right? But those 5 things, that's a lot. That's really a lot. For me, I only have 3 buckets. My bucket is my family, my kids, and my fur kids. I call them the kids. So just, if I say the kids, that's who I'm talking about. My kids, my human family, my friends, the people that are really close to me. So my custom built family, my business, which is what I'm here doing, and search and rescue. My dog and I are a canine search and rescue team, and I'm an EMT as well. So I do a lot of work with that. So these are the 3 areas of my life that I dedicate my time to. And what you need to do as you start to pull out these golden threads, these common ideas from your word associations game, is you're going to start putting them in buckets. Sometimes you may have 5 buckets, sometimes you may have 2, sometimes you have somewhere in the middle, and that's okay. But if you find that you have 23 buckets, go back through and think about which ones are actually important. See if buckets can come together a little bit. So for example, I could have, flushed out my family bucket into my dog, my cat, my mom, my dad, my best friend, my other best friend, my work partner, my this, and my that. But that's a lot of buckets, right? That's a lot of things to dedicate yourself to. So I put it together into the concept of family, the people and pets that are most important to me. That's one bucket. So like I said, go through and figure out what buckets are most important to you, maximum of 5. Because here's the thing, your life is the sum total of the 5 things you spend the most time on. So you know that quote, I cannot remember who it's by, so if anyone knows, feel free to drop it in the chat so I can properly attribute this quote. You are the sum total of the 5 people you spend the most time with, right? We've heard that quote, that's a pretty common quote. But I'm going to flip that around and say that your life is the sum of the 5 things you spend the most amount of time on. So before we double check our goals, it's important to think about these 5 things and ask yourself what you're currently doing. You can do kind of a time audit of what you're doing right now. So if you spend most of your time watching TV, scrolling social media, eating barbecue chips, which is a very convincing way to spend your time, I might not argue with you on that one. But if you're doing things that aren't bringing you closer to your goals, your life is going to stay at that level. But if you dedicate your time to your 5 buckets, if you say, you know what, I'm going to spend my time working on one of my buckets no matter what, then your life is going to move towards that level of fulfillment and success and happiness and whatever your other adjectives are at a very rapid rate. For me, I set myself a challenge actually at the beginning of 2019. So I've almost done this for a whole year, that every minute of my day was going to be spent on one of my buckets. That's powerful. Think about how productive that is. Now, if you looked at my day, you'd see things like walking my dog, baking cookies with my mom. Yes, doing actual work as well. Hiking, these different things. And you're like, Jessi, how is that related to your 5 buckets? How is this moving you forwards? Well, spending time with my dog, walking my dog, is building my relationship with her and strengthening our connection for search and rescue. Baking cookies with my mom, strengthening our relationship. She's part of my family. The business is the business, that's pretty obvious. And then going on a hike is training for search and rescue, because if I can't get up the hill to where the person is and still have enough energy to get them back down, I'm failing as a search and rescue volunteer. So like I said, I've set myself a challenge that every single minute of my day is going to be spent working on one of my 5 buckets. Now, I am not a workaholic, despite how that may sound, because I understand that self-care and relaxation is just as much a part of building my business as actual business building activities like marketing and pitching and writing and doing all these different things. So every piece comes together to fill my bucket. I don't fill my bucket with only one type of thing, right? Like I don't spend every single minute of my day that's focused on business pitching podcasts. There are so many other things that need to go into that bucket, right? But that's that main category that I'm focusing on. Now, the reason that I set this goal for myself to have every minute be something worthwhile like that is because not only is it productive and moves me closer towards my goals, but it gives me permission to deviate. If I said, when I work on business, I'm going to be pitching podcasts. That's the only thing I'm going to do. I'm going to pound it out and be my own drill sergeant. I'm going to burn out really quickly. But when I understand the complexity of each bucket and of how many things go into that bucket, I understand that taking a night and relaxing is also as important as pitching podcasts. And that taking care of myself and eating well is just as important as doing PR for my book. So all of these things come together to make your bucket, but it's still only 3 to 5 categories of life that I'm really dedicating my energy to. Now, once you've gone through this process, you've identified your word associations game answers, you've identified the golden threads, you've turned them into 5 buckets, which, by the way, if you guys get this far, that is amazing. Those exercises that you've done, those 3 steps, so powerful. That in and of itself can completely change how you perceive your life. So kudos to you if you get through that far, but I'm going to take it actually like 3 steps further. So first step, we're going to double check our goals. How do we know that the goals that we've, set out for ourselves, that the word associations game that we've done is actually correct? We're going to take this by asking 2 questions. The first is the goal for external validation or internal achievement? That's the first question. And the second question is, can you make an emotional connection to your goal? So I'm going to tell you guys a story. This is me, obviously on the left, not the right. And I was a sophomore in high school when this picture was taken. Now, when I started a relationship with this individual, it was built on the foundation of struggling mental health. So this individual was someone who was self-harming, who was depressed, who was very suicidal, who was socially isolating himself. He was very anxious. He was very secretive. And for whatever reason, he decided that I was going to be the person to carry him through this. I was going to be his confidant. I was going to be his best friend. And I took that weight and put it on my shoulders. I said, okay, I'm going to take your happiness as my responsibility, and I'm going to take your life in my hands. Everything that I did to keep him alive. And I thought that I was successful. I was proud of myself. I was proud that I was keeping his secret. And I was proud that I was the one he called at 3 a.m. when he cut himself and I wouldn't stop bleeding. I don't mean to be graphic about that, but I want you guys to understand how much of a downward spiral this relationship was. Because as this relationship moved on, my mental health deteriorated as well. I started self-harming. I was depressed. I was isolating myself socially. I was lying to my parents about what was going on. I was lying to the school counselor about what was going on. So both of our mental health were just in this downward negative spiral, which unfortunately ended with him attempting suicide and me calling the cops on him to prevent him from doing so. Now, I heard from him one time after that night, a text. I trusted you. See, that night absolutely broke me because I knew how betrayed and angry I would feel if he did that to me because I was in the same spot. I think he was a little bit ahead of me in terms of how serious he was about suicide, but I was right there with him. So I knew that if he called the cops on me and took that choice away from me, that I would have felt so betrayed. This was the spring of my junior year of high school. And the next kind of year and a half into my freshman year of college, my mental health went like steep Nordic skiing down this landslide. It was horrible. So once I finally hit the bottom, right, I hit my rock bottom. I made a goal for myself that I was going to pull myself up. I was done feeling horrible. I was done hating myself. I was done hiding myself from the rest of the world. And so I tried to do it for other people. I tried to do it so my parents wouldn't find out. And I tried to do it because I hated myself for being so weak. But here's the deal. Every single one of those reasons failed. Because the only way that you are going to make a change in your life, the only person that you're going to be able to do that for is you. You are the only one that can make a change in your life, which is why it's so important that your why, right? Your why statement, your reason for having these goals needs to be based on internal achievement instead of external recognition. Internal achievement, not external recognition. So in your journal, I want you guys, or your notepad or computer or whatever you're doing, I want you to make a little chart that looks like this. On the left-hand side, I want you to write down your goals. And on the right, why do you want those goals? And I just put 5 there. You can put more than that if you want. And if this isn't something you can do right now, feel free to screenshot this or come back to the replay or whatever you need to do. So what is your goal and why do you want this goal? Let's say that your goal is to lose 20 pounds so that your partner will think you're beautiful, right? Goal is to lose 20 pounds. Reason is that your partner will think you're beautiful. No. You need to switch that goal around so that you want to lose 20 pounds, so that you can be more confident and finally say yes to playing soccer with your little brother when he asks you to. Here's the deal. You cannot change the perceptions of other people. No matter how many changes you make in your own life, no matter how much you develop yourself, you cannot ensure that their opinion of you will change when you get to the end of that transformation. Therefore, when you get to the end of that transformation, your whole belief in yourself and in motivation and in the efficacy of making goals and achieving them can be completely dashed because you did all of this work, but you still didn't get the why that you wanted. So if you're looking back at your goals, the ones that we made earlier, and you're finding that, a lot of these goals are for other people, maybe go back, do that word associations game again, and see if you can dig a little bit deeper, dig a little bit more authentically, and find goals that resonate with you, that you're doing for yourself instead of for other people. Now, for the second check, can you make an emotional connection to your goals? This is my car, and because all of you are University of Minnesota alumni, I'm sure you understand that this is a very common sight in Minnesota. Now, I had a 2-door Honda Civic that I drove in the middle of winter all over the place in Minnesota, and there would be so many days that my tires would look like this. It would get full of snow. I'd get stuck in literally every place that I tried to drive, and it was an absolute mess, and I was so fed up with it. I was so done that part of my reasoning for moving back to Oregon, which is where I am now, was that I would never have to drive in the snow again. So that was my goal. My why for my goal was never having to drive in the snow again, like I just said, never having to hack snow off my tires, because that literally took an hour, a hammer, and about 3 gallons of hot water to get that off from this picture right here. And never having to spend 30 minutes scraping ice, because for whatever reason, there's this phenomenon in Minnesota, which I'm sure you know, that ice sticks to your windshield more than it does in other states. I don't understand it, but it's a pain in the butt. So that's my why. But then I went one step deeper, right? What am I actually getting from that? I'm getting safety for me and my kids. I'm getting more time doing what matters to me because I'm not spending it hacking snow and ice off my car. And I'm getting less stress because I'm not worried about constantly crashing, and I'm not worried about people constantly crashing into me. So making these emotional connections is so powerful. So take your goal, take your why, and then take it one step deeper and say, what emotion am I getting out of this? Now, I have to admit, I'm so sorry, but I completely bamboozled you guys. And if you love dog and cat memes as much as I do, you will appreciate this, and I'm hoping that you do. But the 2 goal checks that we did, right? Internal versus external, and then can you make an emotional connection to it? That actually crafted your why statement for you. So your why is sometimes the only thing that's going to carry you through the ups and downs of life. No matter what goal you have, sometimes roadblocks are going to come up. Sometimes it's going to be hard. Sometimes there's going to be a challenge, and it can be so easy if you don't have this strong motivator behind you to just be like, I'm done. I'm giving up on this goal. I'm not doing it. It's not happening. No, ma'am. But when you have this why statement, you can fall back on that. You can take a second to reset and say, I'm going to do this because I have this strong why, this emotionally connected internal why driving me forward. So in your journal, in that same journal we just did, make a 3rd column. Okay. What's your goal? Why do you want it? And then what are you actually getting for it? I'm going to give some examples of this as we move forward, but understand that this deeper connection is your true why. So once you have this why statement, we made that little chart, that's your why statement. What do you do with it, right? What do you do with this? So let's say your goal was to lose 20 pounds, and it was so that you could play soccer with your little brother when he asked. And then that deeper connection was that sense of love and family that's cultivated from that. That is so much more powerful than just playing soccer with your little brother, which is awesome, by the way. So once you have this why statement, format it into something that is inspirational for you. It could be a nice typed document. It could be a handwritten art thing. But like I said, I'm not artistic, so that's not my cup of tea. But put it into something that's inspirational for you. And then do 2 things with it. 1, put it somewhere that you see every single day, like your bathroom mirror or on your car steering wheel or on the fridge or somewhere like that where you're going to see it every day. 2nd, put it on your phone or computer. Why? Because when you're out and about, you've left your bathroom mirror and you hit a roadblock, you hit a challenge, maybe it's a really, really hard run that day at the gym, you will have your phone with you. You can pull that out and say, oh, okay, here's my why. Here's why I'm doing this. And it's like this portable why that you bring with you. You carry your motivation with you literally everywhere you go. So you don't have to struggle with motivation all day only to come home and then have your motivation. You can have it out with you as you're working through your day. Well, okay, we're going to go through this twice apparently because I messed up on the slides, and I apologize about that. But like I said, at the very beginning of this, the more time that you put into yourself, the more powerful it'll be. You will be. The more time that you put into these exercises, the more powerful they will be. So really dedicate yourself to this. Do the word associations game full out. Get into that self-reflective state first. Do your why statement. Work through those steps. Make those emotional connections. Make sure it's for an internal reason and not an external validation. And then put it somewhere that you're going to see every day. These may seem so trivial and like little mindset things, but they are so dang powerful. Now, in conclusion, and I know I have about 10 minutes left, so I'm trying to really get through this so we can get to the questions. 5 things that you need to do from this webinar that we've talked about. And like I said, you're going to have the replays that if you miss something or you want to go back through something, it's all going to be there for you. So first thing, write your own dictionary using the word associations game. Identify your 5 buckets. Make sure your goals are for you and not anyone else. Tie a deeper emotion to your goals, right? So what are you actually getting from those goals? And then have your why statement easily visible on your phone so you can carry it with you, and maybe on your bathroom mirror or fridge or something like that where you can physically see it every single day. So I know we talked in the very beginning about how powerful words are and our definitions and how we use words in our lives at the very beginning, like I said. So because you stuck with me this far, I have a really special gift for you guys, a little surprise for you. It's a free 60-minute training called How to Make Simple Language Swaps to Skyrocket Your Success. You can download it at that link right there. And here's the deal. I know we've all taken online webinars where the host spends the first like 25 minutes talking about themselves and the last 25 minutes talking about the product that they're trying to sell, and then the few 5 to 10 minutes in the middle actually giving value. This training is nothing like that. I'm not selling you anything. I barely talk about myself. I think I actually probably should have introduced myself better. And the whole training is chock full of information that you guys can implement right now in your life to change how you speak about yourself and your world, to really see that success and stop getting in your own way. So like I said, free training, full 60 minutes at that link. It's free. Go download it. It will completely actually change your life because it completely changed my life. So that is all I have for you guys today. And I hope that was valuable. I do want to spend some time answering any questions that you have. But before we do that, please, please, please keep in touch with me. I'm on Facebook and Instagram at Jessi Byer International, and my website is jessibyerinternational.com. Please send me a message, send me an email, let me know what you think. Let me know if you have any other questions that you maybe didn't want to ask in front of the group. If you just want to say hi, if you want to send me a picture of your dog, that is completely valid, and I would love a picture of your dog. So please do that. But please keep in touch with me. I'd love to keep in touch with you guys as well and see how you're going on through this journey. So with that being said, I know that I have 2 questions in the Q&A, but if you have any questions about any material here, anything I didn't cover, anything you need clarified, either drop it in the Q&A or the chat, and I will go ahead and answer that. Okay, so Bob says, give Stouffer's mac and cheese a try. Maybe not Mom's, but you won't be disappointed. I will try that, Bob, because my ability to make mac and cheese is a complete disgrace. And then, okay, so I'm not clear on what 2 things you said make up the why statement. Okay, great. So your why statement is actually a 3-part thing. So in the first part is, what do you want? What is your goal? That's all the things that we identified from our 5 buckets. The second part is, sorry, I got distracted by another question. The second part is, why do you want that goal? Why is that important to you? Why is it something you will work for? And then the third part of your why statement is, what are you actually getting from that? What emotional connection can you tie to that to make it even more powerful? What can you make that deeper? That's going to make that stronger. I hope that answers that question. And then repeat the number 4 thing to do. I'm going to go back to this. So tie the deeper there we go. Tie the deeper emotional connection to your goal. And so is that what you were looking for? Is repeat the number 4 thing to do? Tie the deeper connection? Okay, if you're unsure, oh yes, and good, there, perfect, okay. And then do I have an example of a why statement? I obviously have my why statement, but I don't have one in this presentation to share with you. So if you want to shoot me an email, Tim, I'm Jessi at jessibyerinternational.com. I'd be happy to send you my why statement so you can see an example of what that looks like. Jill says, any books you suggest to support this approach? And when is my book coming out? And she says that there are so many books on goal setting that it is overwhelming. Girl, I hear you. So any books that I suggest, Simon Sinek has a great series of resources about why statements and really building that. So definitely check out his. And as far as the word associations game, that's something that I really haven't found elsewhere. That's something that I needed in my life. So I made it and then realized it was helpful and then wanted to share it with other people. So unfortunately, Jill, I don't have any recommendations for books that support that part of this, but definitely check out Simon Sinek. That's Simon and then Sinek and his stuff about creating a why statement. And my book is coming out on May 5th, and I'm super excited about that. It is more mental health based. It looks at different trauma healing methods. So yeah, May 5th. I'm super excited about it. All right, and then in the chat, we had some questions in the chat. Let me go back. What was step 4? Kristen, I got that. Wendy says, I found value. Thank you. Okay, I already answered Adam's question. Oh, God. Step 4, we did that. Okay, Adam also says, will the 60-minute language swap help for attaining your version of success, or can be applied for however we individually define success? Adam, it can be applied to anything you define in your own life. So your definitions are always the thing I want you to work off of. What this really looks at is saying things like, I'll just give you an example of one of them. One of them is why we say I'm sorry too much, and how to swap that in your own life to really come into your confidence and your power, and also bring sincerity back to your apologies. So it's very individual. It looks at specific words and phrases that you can use. They're going to help you stop preventing yourself from achieving your goals, whatever they are, by how you're speaking about your goals. So I hope that answers that question. What was step 4? Yes, yes, yes. I'll be 73 on Thursday, and I'm in the middle of this exercise. How timely. Interesting that you talk about parents' expectations for you. Where I'm at is what my children think I should be doing. Pat, happy almost birthday. That is so exciting. And yeah, that's great. This is a really timely exercise for you. That's so interesting to hear as well, that your experience has been with your kids telling you what they think you should be doing. You know, I guess it goes both ways. That's really good perspective to share. Thank you. And then Tom, will these slides be available? And then Marissa said, yes, the recordings will be available, which is great. Jody says, looking forward to your book. Thank you very much. Is this an exercise that you do one time? If not, what are the strategic times in your life to do them? This is a great question. Is that how I say your name? B-A-I? I'm not totally sure. I apologize if I butchered that. But this is an exercise that you can do multiple times. And I love that you asked this question. When something big happens in your life, whether it's positive or negative, you know, if you have a kid, if you get married, or maybe something traumatic happens, or you lose a loved one, that can really make your values and beliefs and goals shift a lot. So if something big happens and you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. Nothing that seemed important before is important now, and I don't know where I'm going, then yes, go back to this exercise. So really the answer to your question is anytime you think you need it, go back and do it. But really those big transitions in life are when it's a really good time to go back and do those. Wendy says you missed the link. Let me get that to you. There you go. So it's jessibuyerinternational.com/UMN. Oh, thank you, Marissa, for sharing. That's a great quote. Even though the goals are for us, not anyone else, do you see value in sharing the results of this exercise with friends and family? I do and I don't. So I think this could be something really great to share with friends and family that you have a really positive relationship with. If you say, hey, I did this life eval and this is where I'm going and I'm so excited about this, and you know that they're going to be like, hey, this is awesome. Let me support you. Let me bring this forward with you. Then definitely share it with them. The more people that you can have on your team, the better. If you have friends and family members who are very stuck in their ways and you don't think they're going to be supportive, and you think that sharing this with them would cause maybe some fights, maybe some turmoil, maybe a lot of self-doubt on your end, then I wouldn't recommend sharing that with them. So do a little bit of an evaluation of who you think is going to be supportive, who you have that positive relationship with, and then decide whether to share based on that. Let's see, what else do we have? Jill says, thank you, really great presentation. Jill, I am so glad you were here and enjoyed it. Diane says, I too am approaching retirement after owning a business for 25 years. Wow, Diane, that is awesome. What did you do? I would love to know what you did for 25 years. And she says she's trying to figure out what is next. Thanks for the exercise. Yes, girl, absolutely. Definitely go through this because like I said, that's a big transition. It's a big transition in your life and some things may need to be reevaluated. So job hunting, and love this from Judy. Great, Judy. Hopefully this can give you some clarity on where you should go, what direction you should look at, and what's really important to you as you're moving forward. So does anyone else have any other questions? I'm just checking the time because I know that this was a lot of information. Does anyone else have any questions? Adam says, high energy, great positivity, webinar feels personal. Thank you so much. Adam, thank you. I appreciate the good questions that you asked that really helped flush a lot of this out. Oh, Diane did a remodeling business, kitchens and bath. Oh my gosh, Diane, one of my personal passions is like interior design. So that is amazing. That is so much fun. All right, any other questions that I can answer? Any other slides people need to see again? Thanks a lot. I found some of the tools presented here useful. Great, Robbie, that's so good to hear. All right, Marissa, I will turn it back over to you if you want to say any closing words.
I just can't stop smiling looking at all of the questions and comments coming in. It's clear that your presentation resonated with folks here. It definitely resonated with me, and just so enjoyed having you on the alumni webinar series, Jessi. thank you for sharing your time, your energy, your positivity, your expertise with us. To reiterate one more time, we'll make the recording and slides available to all registrants later this afternoon. So if you want to rewatch or share with family and friends, you'll have that opportunity to do so. We'll also include a short survey where you can tell us more about your experience with today's webinar and suggest any future topics that you'd be interested in as well. So we wish you all the best the rest of the day. And this is our last webinar of 2019. So I'll also say Happy New Year, and we'll see you in 2020.
Awesome.
Thank you again, Jessi, and thank you everyone for joining us. Have a good afternoon.
Bye.
Bye.